Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the second series of the Buffalo MIS demonstration webinar series. Today we are going to focus specifically on functions that can be covered. For those of you who may have missed last week's session, it will be archived and it provides an overview of the Buffalo system. Jose, could you advance to the next slide, please? Okay, these are just some of the functions that are to be covered. I'm not going to read them all, but Jose, if you would just drop down to the next slide. And the way we are going to proceed is to have Jose cover the first topic, and then if there are questions, we will answer maybe 2 or 3 at the most so we can get through all of them. And if you are watching these and you have questions, please note them, and then we will get them at the end of the presentation on each topic. Tenzing is going to give an instruction now on how you can note your questions. And then we'll turn it over to Jose.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we will be taking questions throughout the session, and Jose will be responding at the end of each topic area. So to ask a question, please use the Q&A panel on the bottom right-hand corner, and I'll be watching out for any questions, and we will be covering those questions as we go along. Also, I just wanted to remind everyone that we will have an evaluation form. That we hope you will complete at the end of the session to indicate any questions or functions that weren't covered and you would like us to cover or send you a response to.
Okay, Jose, do you want to start?
Yes.
The next slide.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are going to discuss the functions of the database, or how to make changes to the database. The purpose of this webinar is that you can learn yourself to make modifications to the system. Before we start with the database, because 95% of this webinar is going to be based on the database itself, I want to discuss some areas or show some areas of the database that have changed the name from previous versions. Right now, there is one word, and it's access ribbon. The access ribbon is what used to be called the toolbar on previous version of the database. The access ribbon has 5 different tabs. From the first tab, which is the File tab, the user can save the database, they can save the objects, or can rename the objects. We are going to briefly go over this. In the Home tab of the database, the user can change the view. That's the main purpose, change the view from form view, from query view, from datasheet view to design view, so they can make modifications to the system. We're going to be working a lot in this tab today. The Create tab allows the user to create tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, modules. In this session, we are going to be concentrating on tables, queries, and forms. The user is going to be able to see how to create a table, how to edit a table, how to create a query, and how to at least change current forms, and also add and create a new form. Also, from the External Data tab, the user can gather data from different tables. Once you are more advanced into this, you can actually create several versions of the front-end database or the front-end system of the database, and each one could have technically different modules or different objects that will give different access to different users. And the last one is the database tools. From this tab, the user can compact and repair the database, which is something that they should do frequently. They can create relationships or modify the relationships on the database, and they can also split the database into the back end and the front end. This is the access ribbon, or what it used to be the toolbar. Also, in Access 2010, what used to be the database window, now it changed to the navigation pane. The navigation pane is on the left of the program. We are going to see it in a few seconds. And from there, the user can have access to every single object within the database. This is a view on the left of the navigation pane closed, and on the right is a view of the navigation pane open. To close or open this navigation pane, the user needs to hit the F11 key, and that's the key on the function keys from the keyboard, not the F and number 11. So F11 key on the function keys. When we are talking about database objects, we are talking about tables or queries or forms, reports, macros. Each time that we talk about object, it can be either one of them, but we are going to specify. So right now we are going to the database, and we are going to start from scratch. So the first thing that I want to show you is how to find the objects within a database. You have access to all these objects here, but if you want to find different ones, or if you want to create new ones and you want to find them later, you have to use the navigation pane that I was discussing before. To open the navigation pane, like I mentioned before, you need to hit F11 on the keyboard. That will open and close the navigation pane. To find the different types of objects within the navigation pane, you need to click on this arrow right here and select what type of object you want. Do you want a table, query, forms, or macros? Once you know exactly what you want, let's say you want a table, you click on table and you have all the tables. To find one specific table, you can either scroll down with this bar over here until you find the right table, or if you know the name or part of the name, you can just type the name and the table will appear right there. The same with any queries, with any forms. Right now, because I have the word main, it's looking for any query that has the word main. The same with any form, if any. There are no forms with the word main, but if I remove it, now it's giving me all the forms. So this is the way to find any object. If you don't know whether you're looking for a table or a query, you can also click here and click on all access objects, and it's going to give you everything: tables, queries, forms, reports, and macro. That's the easiest way to find an object within the database in case that the object is not accessible through these buttons in the main menu. Is there any question, Tenzin, for that part?
No.
Okay, perfect. So now the next step is we are going to create, what we are going to try to do today is we are going to modify the rolodex. We are going to pretend that we need to create a family part or a family component within the rolodex. Because for that, we're going to have to create fields on a table. We're going to have to create a new table, and we are going to have to create at least one query. So in order for me to find out what data or what table holds the data for the rolodex, I need to open the rolodex. And again, you can open the rolodex either through here, or you can go here, click on forms, and you can type rolodex. You can see that there are 3 types of rolodex here. You have the form rolodex. This rolodex here is the equivalent of this rolodex over here, the one with clients. The one that says rolodex by docket is the equivalent to this one. One will display the clients based on clients. The other one will display based on cases. So you might have 3 clients, but maybe one of them or 2 of them has several cases, so they will count twice. But we're going to take this rolodex over here, the very first one, and we are going to modify. We're going to go open it in design view so we can see exactly where the data is coming from. So we are going to right-click the form, and from the options provided, we're going to click on design view, and now we're going to have the rolodex in design view. So now we are going to click on the property sheet, which is this icon over here. and we are going to look from all the tabs. We are going to look for the All tab, and we are going to look for this area, record source. That is going to tell me what is the source for this form, and it's telling me that there is a query named rolodex. If again, I can open the query through here, or I can go to the navigation pane, click on queries, and type rolodex, and it's right here. So either way, it's going to give me the rolodex. So I'm going to click over here, and I can see that I have apparently 3 fields on this grid or in this query. But if you open it in form view, in datasheet view, you can see that it has everything. It has every single field from the main table, and you know that it's from the main table because it's right here. That's the name, the main table. Now, the reason because it has every single field is because of this asterisk or wildcard that you see over here. When you have a wildcard in the field, you are saying, I want to see all the fields. And if I wanted to recreate this query, and I'm going to do it right now, I could just delete this. In order to see every single field at once before having to do one field at a time, you can just drag down this asterisk or this wildcard over here, drag it down here, and now if I open it, again, I see every single field within that table. The reason I have the other 2 fields is because I want the system to be sorted first by last name and then by first name. And you can get the fields by either typing them or by going to the table over here, finding the field and drag it over here. Now, you can see this checkbox. If I hit this checkbox, I'm going to see this field, but I don't want to see this field because it's already included within all the fields over here. So I'm just going to uncheck this, and I am going to click on the sort, and I'm going to click on ascending. And that's basically what I did to make the information sort by last name and then by first name. But what I really wanted to know was the name of the table, and this is the name of the table. So now we are going to go to that table, and we're going to start adding fields. So I'm going to close here. I am not going to save it because all I wanted to know was the name of the table. And I am not going to save either the rolodex. I didn't really make any change. And then I am going to go to the main table. I'm going to click on tables over here, and I'm going to type the word main because that's the name of the table. And I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to start adding fields. Before I do that, is there any question on the last part, Tenzin?
Not yet, but please feel free to send us questions.
Okay. So I'm going to right-click here, and I am going to select Design View. Now I have the table with every single field available in Design View. You have to be careful when you are in Design View. You do not want to start changing fields from here if you're not sure what you really want to do, because by changing the field here, you can completely break the connection between that field on the different forms. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to close over here, and I'm going to go to the very end over here, look for an empty space, and I'm going to type a couple of fields. Like I mentioned before, what I'm going to pretend that I'm doing is I'm going to create a family history area. I'm going to add the name of the significant other, the date of birth, the address, if she lives in a different address or he, and whether or not a consent was signed for that person. And then I'm going to create a different table, and I'm going to add the information for the dependent's name, for the sons or daughters of the defendant. So to start collecting the name of the defendant's significant other, I am going to start, I cannot write name because it's going to be confused with the client's name. So I'm going to write significant other name, and again, it doesn't have to be exactly like that. You can rename it any way you want to. This is just a quick way for me to identify that this name is only for the significant other. Now, for the data type, and if you remember the last webinar, we talked about different data types. I am going to select text, but the field size right here, I want to lower it because there is no way a name can be 255 characters. So let's say I'm going to make it 50 characters, and I still can't see a possibility of a name being that long, but you want to keep it as low as possible. For the date of birth of the defendant, again, I can just write significant other, date of birth, so I don't confuse this field with the date of birth of the defendant. And I'm going to, instead of text, even though I can, but instead of text, I'm going to select date and time. And the format over here, I'm going to make it a short format. For me, that's the easiest one of all. And again, I'm going to do cite significant other address. So I just want to make sure this field that I know for a fact that this is for a significant other. And again, 255 is way too long for the text, so I'm going to make this say 75. And the last field that I'm going to create is a checkbox that I want to click on once I know for sure that I have a consent sign for a significant other of the defendant. So what I'm going to do is, again, significant other, consent, sign. This time it's not going to be a text, it's not going to be a number, and it's not going to be a date. It's going to be a yes, no. Yes, no is what I mentioned before on the previous webinar. If you click it, it's yes, and if you don't click it, it's no. So right now, that's all I need to create the significant other information. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to close it. And right now, I'm going to start working on the rolodex before creating the next part of the field, which is the dependence information. So again, I'm going to click on the navigation pane. I can click on F11 to open it. I do not want to work on this table right now because I'm done with this table. So I'm going to click on the forms area, and I'm going to type here rolodex to find my rolodex. The advantage with having two different rolodexes is that you can have different information on each one. The only disadvantage is that if you want to add information in one and you also want it in the other one, you have to do it in both separate. So I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to hit Design View. I'm going to close this so I have more space. Now I have all these tabs, personal, case, educational, and so on, and really they don't relate to the information that I want because the information that I want is for family. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on any of the tabs, and from the options provided, I'm going to click on Insert a Page. That is going to insert one more tab. Right now, if I click it, I have all these tabs and one more named Page 1221. The problem is, first, I don't want it there, and second, I don't like the title. So I'm going to right-click it again. This time, I'm going to select Properties, not for Properties, because that will be for the entire Rolodex, but Properties, which is for that area. And I'm going to see right here on the name of the page, that the name of the page, Page 1221. I don't like it, so I'm going to change it. All you have to do really is just type whatever you want in this tab. So I'm going to type family history for now. Again, you can type any name that you want. So now if I close it, I can see family history. The only problem is I don't want this tab over here. I want to, let's say, between mental health and AOD. So again, I'm going to right-click it. And from the option provided this time, I'm going to click on the Page Order button. And it's going to give me the order of all the tabs from personal. You can see here case, educational, and if I go all the way to the bottom, the family history should be right there. So I'm going to click on the Move Up button, and I want to move it somewhere between mental health and AOD. So I'm going to click Move Up, and I'm going to hit OK. And right now, if I click on right here, View, and I click on the Rolodex, I still have the same Rolodex with the difference that now I have one tab here named Family History, which is empty. So I am going to go again, Design View, and I'm going to click on within the Design tabs. These are all tabs for Design View. Within the Design tab, I'm going to click on the Add Existing Field. There are several ways to add a field, you have this way, which is the quick way, and you can also select the fields from here. But for right now, we're going to go here, which is the quickest and easiest way. So if I click it once, it's going to show me all the fields within the main table that are available for the Rolodex. If I click it again, it disappears. So I'm going to scroll all the way down until I find the 4 fields that I created. Now I can go one by one and drag it, or I can click on one, press the shift down on my keyboard, and with the down arrow, highlight the other 4. And now I can drag them and move them to the Rolodex. So right now I have the 4 fields that I created already inserted in the Rolodex. It's just a matter now of working with the cosmetic area, so make it more professional. So I'm going to take the very first one right here, and I'm going to move it a little bit to the right so I can have more space. Now, when you click on a label or when you click on the field, you will have these dots around the label or around the field. By putting the mouse or the cursor over these dots, it will allow you to expand, decrease, or increase the size of the label or the field. So what I'm going to do here is, because I don't really like the SO name, this is only for the field, I'm going to change it to significant other name. Now, it took part of the field. That's fine, because I can either drag this field over here, or I can also take the field by this big gray square on the corner over here, and I can move the entire field without having to move the label. And I can do the same with the label. Actually, we're going to do it later. I am going to take the significant other field and I'm going to expand it to the right. And we are going to work with the colors of this to make it better. To work with the font size, with the font color, with the background color, you got to click on the Format tab over here. And we are going to click on the field. We are going to click on the background color over here, and I'm going to make it white so it looks better. The font, I'm going to make it black so it looks better. And this one too, also, I want to make it black. So right now, I want to do the same changes that I did here with this one and with this one. I can, go to the background, go to the font color, or I can click here once. I can click on the Format Painter, click here, do it again, and click here. Now you can see that these 3 change. So I'm going to close over here so I have more space to play with. And I'm going to start moving this, okay? And I'm going to remove from the label the SO, because now we know that this area is only for the significant other of the defendant, if any. And I'm going to remember I can move it here to make it closer, and I can move it here. And the consent sign, again, I'm going to remove the SO from the consent, make some space over here, and change this from over here. And instead of copying the field itself, I'm going to click on this label to copy the properties to this label over here. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to make this, change all the formats for these fields. And again, if you drag this by the gray area over here, you can move this over here so it's below the label. I'm just showing you different ways. You can move this below the label. That will give me more space. And also I can take this now, okay, and move this over here. So basically, if you look, because of the lack of time, I might not be able to do it perfect, but what I want to show you is how you have different options to move this left, right, up, down, expand it. Because this is an address, I am going to make it bigger. And again, I can have this. So now I can also take this, highlight all the labels, make them bold, and make them center. And it looks a little bit better. I'm going to move this over here because it's kind of out of order. So now if we go to the home and click on the view tab, now it's starting to take shape. Now, if I click on the family history, guess what? Now I have 3 fields. I can type here any name that I want, any date of birth that I want, and any address. Okay, and once I have, and I forgot the T, but once I have the consent sign, I can click here and show that I have a consent sign to talk to this person. Now, we are going to go deeper now. We're going to create a form within a form. Basically, if I want to create the information for the dependents of the client or the defendant, I don't know exactly how many dependents the client might have. They can have 1, or they can have 5, 6, 7. So I don't want to create 7 fields when in most of the cases I'm going to use 1 or 2, and I don't want to create 1 or 2 because I might be running out of space. So what you do is you create what we call a subform, which will allow you to create basically unlimited number of dependents. So to do that, we're going to close the rolodex first. So let me just go here, like I showed you before, and I'm going to click Save. So I can save the rolodex. I'm going to close the rolodex. Is there any questions so far, Tenzin, before I move to a new table?
No.
Okay, perfect. So now we are going to create a new table. To create a new table, I am going to, from the tabs that I showed you before, on the ribbon area, I'm going to click on the Create tab, and I'm going to click on the table design. That's way easier than the table itself. So I'm going to click on Table Design, and I'm going to start adding a couple of fields. I'm going to type dependent name, and again, it's going to be a text, and let's say 50 characters maximum. I'm going to type the gender of the dependent. Now, I can make this a text, and I can write male or female, but just for the purpose of demonstrating different type of fields, I am going to make this a number, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an option group that accept M for female or M for males or F for females. Then I am going to type also the dependent date of birth. And again, I have to make a date field, and I'm going to make a short date. And I'm going to write here any arrest history. And again, this is just for the purpose of demonstration. You can type as many fields as you want. There is a maximum amount of fields per table. You cannot have more than 255 fields for each table. So if you are going to exceed that amount on the main table, you might have to start thinking about going to on a different table. Now, I created a dependent name, the gender, the dependent date of birth, and the arrest history. Now, there is a very important field that I need to create, and it's the field that is going to join this table with the main table. The main table, if I go back here, tables, and type main table, has one field that is the ID field. And if we go over here, this is the main table, and we scroll down to the ID field. This ID field is set to unique, and it's set to auto number, which means that every single time that you create a record, the computer will automatically create a number that has not been used before. The system will not allow two clients with the same ID number. You can see here that it cannot be a duplicate. And this is like basically like the mother table. From there, there can be many dependent tables. And the idea is that you want to have one field or one record on this table, but you can have another table with 4, 5, 6, 7, or unlimited number of records that are related to that record. To do so, I'm going to close over here. Now we know that that's the ID. The key that you can see over here means that it's an index field. So we are going to close this over here, and we are going to type a field that we are going to join with that. In order to do that, first row, let me just go back over here again. You need to make sure that it's the same type of field. So this one is an auto number. Now, you cannot create two auto numbers and link them together because they will never be the same number. But you can see that it's a number, and over here is a long integer. That's key here. You need to make sure that you are using the same here, number and long integer. So I'm going to close over here, and I'm going to type a field, and I'm going to name main ID. From here, I'm going to type or select number, and again, make sure that you have long integer. You want this to be indexed, yes, with duplicates, okay, because you can have more than one record. And why is that? Because a client can have multiple dependents in this case, and each dependent will be a separate record, but they will all be related to the same client. So now I am going to go over here on this icon over here, or if you don't have it, you can click on File and click Save. And I'm going to give a name to that table. As a personal rule, and this is just me, I always start all the rules, all the tables, with either CBO to indicate that it's a data for a combo box or for a drop box, or TBL to indicate that it's a table with data from the client. So I'm going to start with TBL, and personally, I am going to name this table Family History. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's telling me that there is no primary key defined. That's fine, because I am not planning to join any other table with that table, so that's fine. So I'm going to hit No. And you can see right here, TBL Family History. If I close it, and by any chance I want to find it again, I can go over here, make sure that I have tables, and type Family, and I am going to see it right here. So that's the table that we created. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to create a query that will sort the information from this table based on the defendant date of birth. So it's going to start showing the dependents either from the youngest to the oldest or vice versa. So I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to go back to the Create tab from the ribbon area. This time, I am not going to click on a table design. I am going to click on a query design. This part over here is not going to be covered today. It's basically for different type of query, but we are going to go with a query design. And once you click here, the system is going to give you this window over here that is going to show you all the tables and all the queries that you have available, so you can pull data for this query. If by any mistake you close this window, that's fine. Just click on this icon over here again, and you will have it over here. So we are going to look for the table that we just did. And we know that it's not a CBO, it's a table, so we're going to start looking for TBLs. And then if you look here, TBL Family History. So I can click here, and I click on the Add button. And I'm going to close the window here. So now the easiest way for me to get these fields over here, I can either drag this over here, but in this case, because I want to show every single field and I only have a few, I am going to close this, and I'm going to go one field at a time. I'm going to click the first one, press the Shift button on the keyboard, and go down until I select them all, and then drag them down. Now, I have a query here that will display all the data that I will have stored on this table right here. And what I want to do is I want to sort this data by the defendant's data, or the dependent's date of birth. Kind of confusing the words. So I'm going to click with the sort row. I am going to look for the column for the dependent's date of birth, and I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to click on ascending or descending, just for the purpose of demonstrating. So now I'm going to click over here, and I have to save the query. So I'm going to save a query. Again, I start all the queries by QRY just to identify them as queries, and I'm going to do Family History. So I'm going to hit OK. Again, I'm going to close it, and if I ever want to look for this query again, I can just click on the navigation pane, click on queries over here, and once I have family over here, I'm going to find it over here, which if I open it is empty, but it's right there. So now we created a table, we created a query, and now we're going to create a form based on the information from this query. So I can just keep this open over here and click on the form wizard over here. I'm going to click here. Now, if you look at this, because I have the query open, the system understands or believes that I want to do a query based on this query that is open. If by any chance this is not the query that I want, I can still go over here and select a different query, but this is the one that we want. So now we are just going to drag or transfer all these fields to the form. So I'm just going to, instead of just clicking one at a time because I want all, I am going to click on this button over here with the 2 arrows, and I'm going to transfer everything to the form. So I'm going to hit next. The next part is what type of form do I want? Do I want a columnar form, which I can rearrange the form, the fields on any way I want? Do I want a tabular form, data sheet, or justify type of forms? For right now, we are going to use the tabular form. The tabular is similar in style to a data sheet. However, it allows you to do some things that you cannot do on the data sheet. So we're going to do tabular form. We're going to hit next, and we are going to modify the form. So I'm going to click on modify the form and hit finish. So right now, it created the form for me. I'm going to close over here so I have more space. And again, if I open it, if I click on view form, I have a form based on information. I really don't like the way it looks, so we're going to rearrange it. So I'm going to click on view, design view again, and the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this family history label. So I'm going to click on it once to highlight it, then I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to remove it. Now I'm going to take this, highlight all the labels, and I'm going to move them up because I don't really need that much space here, okay? And then this is the time where if I want to, I can start taking this, go format, make them black, and if I want to make them bold, I can make them bold. I can also click on each individual label, and I can change any part that I don't want. I am going to highlight everything again, and I'm going to click on the center button here. So all the information is in the center of the keyword, of the field, sorry. This one didn't take it, okay. Okay, perfect. Now I have dependent name, I can see it. I can see the gender. This one I cannot see it, so I can get rid of the dependent word because we know for sure that it's all for dependents. So I'm just going to leave date of birth. And we have the arrest history. If you notice, I didn't touch the main ID field, and it's because I'm going to do something different with the main ID field. I really need the main ID there, but it's only for relational purposes. It's only to join this form with the rolodex. I really don't need to see that field. So what I'm going to do is I am going to highlight the entire form or the entire field, the field and the label. I am going to right-click it, and I am going to select properties. And from the properties, the very first option that I have is visible. Do I want the field to be visible? You know what? I don't want it to be visible. I'm going to click no. It's still going to be there, but I am not going to see it. And I can honestly use the space for something better. So I'm going to move now the label over here, and I'm going to move this field over here, and that's going to give me more space to enter any arrest history information. So I'm going to take all these 4 fields, and I'm going to make the background white, the font black, and I can make it bold if I want to. I don't have to. Now, the only thing is I'm going to have to play with the size and everything because I moved the labels. I want this to be on the same area where the labels are. Now I can take this bar here that says detail and click on it once and drag it up. And that way I have more space. Now, if I look at it, show you now before how it's starting to look. If I click view, you can see that it's starting to look different. It's starting to look more organized. But if you do remember, I told you that I was going to do something different with the gender field. I wasn't going to type a letter because I can't type a letter because I set it for numbers. So if I type M or F, it's not going to take it. So I'm going to click on design view again, and I'm going to make a change. First of all, I'm going to drag this down for now so I have more space. And now I am going to click on from the design tabs, I am going to click on the option group. The option group can create what we call radio buttons or checkboxes. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click anywhere within this form over here. And now I'm going to start creating my options. And honestly, I only have two options for now, M for males and F for females. So I'm going to do M, F. You know, if you have a different field, you can create pretty much unlimited number of fields. I don't know what's the maximum number of options you can create. I am going to hit the next button. And now the question is, do I want the default to be M? No, I don't want any default. So I'm going to click here because I don't want by mistake skipping a record indicating male or when it's actually a female. So I'm going to click on no, I don't want a default. I'm going to hit next, and then I'm going to assign a value. Now we can see that we are assigning a numeric value. So for M, I'm assigning a number 1, and for F, I am assigning a number 2. So every time that you enter a record, even though you see a radio button that says M or F, in reality, what you are saving is a number 1 for males and a number 2 for females. In many of the option buttons that you see, I have assigned a 1 for yes and 0 for no. So I'm going to hit next over here. And now the next option is, do I want to save the value for later use, or do I want to store the value in this field? It's almost similar, but actually it's not. If you save the value, you are really going to use it once you close the database. But if you store the value, then you can store the value on a field. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to look for, I don't want the name, I want the gender field. So I'm going to store the value on the gender field. Again, every time that I type or click M or F, it's going to save either 1 or 2 on the gender field. So I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to leave it. I always like to leave it radio buttons because the checkbox can confuse people. They might believe that they can have the options to select more than one. And this one, I'm going to make it flat because with flat, I can change the color of the border, and I can even make it invisible if I want to. So I'm going to hit next. And honestly, don't worry about the name because we are going to change it. But if you want to add a name, you can add any name there that you want. And we are pretty much done with that. So I'm going to hit finish. Now, if you look at it, you have option name, which is the label that we assign. Actually, I'm going to click on that label. I don't want it because I already have the label over here. And I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and I'm going to get rid of it. So now, I am going to expand this a little bit. I'm going to move the M up over here to the beginning of the blue line. I am going to move the F over here to the beginning of the blue line, or the top of the blue line, sorry. And then I'm going to make this smaller because I really don't want that much space taken by this. And I'm going to change the M black, and if you want to make it bold, and the same with the F. Okay, so now I'm going to take the gender field. I don't really need this field anymore. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to move. You know what? Let me just make this a little bit smaller so it doesn't take too much space. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to move it over here. When you move it, make sure that the mouse is on a position where it's like a double cross, like right here. If I try to move it like this, it's actually going to change, increase, or decrease the size of the field. So I'm going to wait until the mouse is right here like this, and I'm going to move this over here. I might have actually to move this field a little bit over here, and move the field, the label, I'm sorry, in size. And now I am going to make this smaller. And you can see now, that's how it's look. So you can actually start entering information, but before we start entering information, we have to join this field or this form with the rolodex. Now, technically, I don't like this name because it starts with QRY and it's a form, but I am going to save it like that so I can show you how you can rename an object later. So I'm going to hit close, and I'm going to hit save, yes, and I'm going to close this here now. Now, if you remember, I want to rename that form because it's not really a query, it's a form. So I'm going to click on the navigation pane, and I'm going to click on the forms area. I'm going to type family, which I already have it there, and I can see it right here. Within the forms, I see a form named query family history, which is wrong because it's not a query. So I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to just change this. And I mean, you don't have to do it. This is just a way of showing you how you can rename an object. And if you rename an object, make sure that you don't lose the connection between any other objects that are related to this one. I can play with this one because I haven't really connected to anything before. We go to create a form within a form based on this form I just created. Do you have any question, Tenzing, or is there any question?
We do have two questions. The first question is related to tables.
Okay.
In design view, is it okay to increase or change the field size? For example, after we have already entered the data.
Okay, if you are talking about a text field and you want to increase or decrease the number of fields or characters, if you try to do it and you violate a rule, meaning let's say that you have a field set for 50 characters and you want to change it to 10 characters, for example, but you already have one record that has like 25 characters, it will not allow you to do it. So you can increase the size up to 255 characters, which is the maximum, but you cannot decrease the size to the point where one of the records that you have already entered will not fit. So there is a formula actually that you can use to get the exact number of characters that you have in each record. But if you know for sure, 100% sure, that you are not going to violate any rule, meaning that you are not going to decrease it to the point where one record value is not going to fit, you should be fine. So even after you have split the database, even after you have entered data, yes, you can increase or decrease the size as long as you don't violate the rule, meaning going less than the number of records or characters that you have on any record.
Okay, thank you, Jose. And another question we have is, can one place the database on the Google Doc so that others from other agencies can enter data and save as well?
On the Google Doc, you mean like a SharePoint site?
Yeah, so if they can share that this database on the Google Doc, so maybe other people from different agencies can enter their part of the data into it.
The recommended way is to split the database and to save the database on a folder that is shared on a local access network. And that way, everybody, and like I mentioned before on the previous webinar, there can be up to, I believe, 255 users at the same time. As far as Google document, I have never tried to share a database through a Google document, so I don't want to say yes. But like I said, the recommended way on any access book for a local access database is to use a local access network, which basically means you have a server and you have several computers connected to that server, and you find a folder that every single computer can share. And that's the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you, Jose.
Okay, so now we are going to proceed to go to the same rolodex in which we created the family history information, and we are going to create a subform that will allow you to enter pretty much unlimited number of dependents. So we are going to click on Home tab. We're going to click on the View, Design View. We are going to click on the Family History tab because that's what we are going to be working on. And from these options over here, we are going to click on the arrow button and click on this icon over here that looks kind of like a window, and it's called subform or subreport. That will allow you to create a form within the Rolodex form. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click anywhere in here, and I'm going to wait. I have to wait a few seconds for this to work. Basically, what it's going to allow me, wait 1 second, you jump back to the webinar. Okay, what it's going to allow me is to create a different form. Now, the options here is I can create the form based on a table, or in my case, I already have the form done. I can create based on the table and click on the history table, but I might not like the way that Access create the form. So that's why I want to first create the form, modify the form to a way I like it, and then use it. So I'm going to click on Use an existing form over here. Click on Form Family History, which is over here, and I'm going to click Next. Now, because I have never created a relationship between this table and the main table, the computer really doesn't know how to use it to do it. So I'm going to have to do a manual link. And to do a manual link, I have to find a field from the main table, which, if you remember, is the TVL main or the main table, and a field in this table, which is the family history table. So we explained before that the ID field is the one that I use to create the relationships within other tables. I'm going to click on ID, and from here, I'm going to click on the main ID field that I created for this. I'm going to hit Next now, and I'm going to rename it. You can honestly put any name because eventually I'm going to remove the label anyway. If you want to leave the label, that's fine. That is completely optional, and I'm going to hit Finish. Now, honestly, the subform is done. I am going to take this form and I'm going to expand it a little bit down so I have more space to enter data for kids. But now, if I click on Family History, now I can see, and you can see why I don't like the title, but you can leave it there. I can enter as many kids or as many dependents as I want. So I click here, I type, I don't know, Laura Del Valle, and she's a female, and her date of birth is 9/29/1999, and she's a good kid, so she doesn't have any arrest record. You can do Sofia Del Valle, and she's also a female, and her date of birth is May 5/1995, and she's not as good as the first one. She was arrested in 2014 for, let's say, petty larceny. And also, you have another kid, John Del Valle. He's a male, and date of birth is 6/6/1997. And in 2013, he was, I don't know, petty larceny, whatever. Okay, so now you have 3 kids here. If you look at the date of birth, you have 99, 95, and 97. But if you remember the way we did the query, which changed the query or the fields to be in ascending order by date of birth. So the next time that we move through the record and we either close or go back over here, you are going to see now that all these names or the date of births were arranged in ascending order by the date of birth here. So we have covered how to do a table. We have covered how to do a basic query. We have covered how to change the fonts, then the color, the background of the field, how to rearrange fields, how to create a tab on the rolodex, how to create a new table and a form within a form. Is there any other questions before we wrap this up? Tenzin?
No. Okay.
So
no,
Karen, do you want? Okay, do you want to? That's pretty much the basic of the basic. I just wanted to give the users a view on how to make changes to the rolodex, how to create new tables, how to create other areas. There are some other areas that we can discuss, but that we cannot do it within an hour or in one seminar. So for this, at least they learn how to create tables, queries, and how to modify forms. Do you want to take over, Tenzin or Caroline?
Yes, well, thank you, Jose. I think since our time is up, what we would welcome is comments from those who have attended on any issues you'd like to cover that weren't covered, any clarifications that would be helpful, and we can see how either to respond individually or to maybe schedule another web meeting. So thank you, everyone, for participating. We hope you will find this helpful and complete our evaluation form and indicate what else would be useful, because it's so important to get the MIS capability up and running to sustain the programs both immediately and over the long term. So thank you, everyone, and I think we'll sign off now.
Yes, thank you.